Hey, welcome back to Music Theory Logic. My name's Andrew, and today is going to be another music theory breakdown where I've recreated popular songs so that I can show you some music theory. Today we're going to be talking about That's What I Want by Lil Nas X off of his project Montero. Let's go ahead into the logic session. So here we are in my rendition of this track. If you haven't seen these before, I do not play the original audio since I don't own the copyright to it. I've recreated the full track. We're going to then talk about the music theory. If you find these helpful, you would help me out a ton by subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, here is my recreation of Montero. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. We've heard everything that happens in the track. It just basically repeats. And since I don't have any vocals, I don't want to bore you with hearing the same thing twice. So let's go ahead into our music theory. If you're not sure what music theory exactly is, it's a fancy way of saying how notes work together, rhythms, note values. We talk about scales, chords. You don't have to know this stuff to write music, but if you're working in the computer, since we see everything in piano roll, it really helps to know a little bit of theory, which is why I'm trying to give you this information. So this song, That's What I Want, is in the key of C sharp minor. That's C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, and C sharp. That sounds like this. Now, C sharp minor has exactly the same notes as its relative major. It's always the third note from a minor scale, but that is E. So E major has the same notes as C sharp minor. Cool. Let's go into the chords. So the chord progressions that we're going to hear for the verse, essentially we have C sharp minor, followed by a G sharp minor, followed by a B major. That's a 1 chord in C sharp minor, 1 being the first note. This is a 5 chord being built on the 5th note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, G sharp. Cool. And then finally a B major, that's a major 7 chord. Cool. Going into the chorus chord progressions, basically an A major chord, an E major, B major, and then a C sharp minor. In other words, that's a 6, 3, 7 to 1. Now we could also talk about this chord progression as in the key of E major, which again has the same notes. If we're talking about E major, this is a 4 chord, this is a 1 chord, this is a 5 chord, and this is a minor 6 chord. So again, we could define it in either of those progressions or those keys. Cool. Let's go ahead into all of the individual tracks. So I didn't really have to chart MIDI in here because again, this is the main layer. I played this on the guitar. But if you look at that, it's just audio. So in order to show you all of the notes, I charted it into MIDI. So here's the basic verse chord progression. Now we get the same chord sequence 3 times, and then we get a different section. So this first one is the one I just showed you. That's C sharp, G sharp, B, and it's the diatonic, fancy way of saying the normal chords that come from the scale. All of the chords are directly notes from the scale. So none of these notes are any of the other pitches than I showed you in C sharp minor. So this is our 1 chord, this is our 5 chord, and this is a major 7 chord. That happens again 3 times. Then the 4th time, we have a different chord sequence. We go to F sharp minor. F sharp minor in the key of C sharp minor is a minor 4. That's in our scale and everything. Our A, we have that in the chorus. So that's a 6 chord. And then finally our minor 5, that's a 5 chord. Again, diatonic. So this is natural minor. This is not harmonic minor. If you've seen a lot of my videos, you'll know we talked about harmonic minor for the Praise God music theory breakdown from Kanye West. It's probably on the side if you want to check that one out after this one. So moving along, we get a kick drum that starts. That's the first additional instrument we hear. Looks like this. Sorry, let's zoom in. Here we go. Cool. So I have the song, this session, at 88.5 beats per minute. You could times that by 2 and have that. That would be 166, 167 beats per minute. Is that right? No, 176. Can't do math right now. So sorry, 177. So again, if you divide that by 2, you get 88.5. Essentially, the grid would just slightly change, but it's the same stuff, just half as long, I guess, if we go at twice the speed. So the rhythms we get are a kick drum on the beat 1, so that's cool. Kick drum on the 4th 16th note. This together is like a dotted 8th and a 16th note. Then finally we get a kick drum on the 2nd 16th note. This is kind of a super out note. This is not super common, but that gives this track a lot of its like attitude, I guess. And then finally we get the 2nd 16th note after beat 3. And then after beat 4, we get the 2nd 16th note. That 4 measure bar basically repeats the whole song. We get this. There's that 4th chord. Cool. After we hear that 4 measures, we get a clap. Now, this clap is basically, if we had gone at 177 beats per minute, this would look like a standard backbeat. At half the speed, at 88.5, our clap comes on the 2nd 8th note, so on the upbeats. And then finally, that happens the whole time, but every other measure, we get 3 claps in a row. It's 3 8th notes from 3 and 4, and there we go. Let's hear that from the beginning. Cool. So you heard the clap repeating. That again happens every other measure. Cool. On top of that, after that sequence, we get our bass and our hi-hat. Our hi-hat is doing standard, slightly swung out 8th notes. Not super crazy or difficult to follow that. We see that a lot in popular music. We saw it, I think, actually in both the Drake and Kanye tracks, our recent breakdowns. So our bass is essentially following the root notes. That's a fancy music theory term for the name of the chord. So if you see a C sharp minor, C sharp is the root. If you see like an A major, A is the root. See some crazy chord like F sharp minor 7 flat 5, half diminished, doesn't matter. The root note is again the name, the letter. So F sharp in that case. So our bass is doing that. And then a slightly different pattern than our kick drum. So it starts out with the kick. So that's a dotted 8th and a 16th on the 1. Then we're hitting on the downbeat of beat 3 and beat 4. That together with the kick drum gets a little bit of like again, movement or different interaction. Altogether, that sounds like this. If we push those back, let's hear that. almost having it forward almost makes it feel like there's two kick drums there. One more time while watching it, it's this. All right, so in that section, the same rhythm repeats every 4 measures, just like the chord sequence or the guitar playing. The 4th measure, we change notes, but we keep it the same rhythm. It's pretty standard. Repetition, even if we're not repeating the same notes, we're repeating the same rhythms. That's really a core concept in pretty much every genre of music there is. So you don't want to just have things changing all the time, or your music's going to feel a little bit like hard to follow. Your friends might think it sounds random. That doesn't mean you can't write really crazy out there music, but just know, regardless, like the way you write impacts the way people hear your music, and they're not listening in a vacuum, which means they're hearing other music at the same time or throughout their life. And so different rules with like scales and rhythms and repetition and all this stuff, structures, they know that whether they realize it or not. So going into our hook section, I already explained the chords to that. Again, in the key of C sharp minor, this is a major 6 chord, a major 3 chord, a minor 4 chord, and then a 1 chord. So that's a 6, 3, 4, 1. If we called it in the key of E major, that would be a 4, 1, 4, 1. Sorry, this is a B major, so that's a major 7 in the key of C sharp minor. It's just inverted. So an inversion is when the name of the chord isn't on the bottom. So the F sharp's on the bottom here. So one more time, in the key of C sharp minor, this would be a major 6 chord, major 3 chord, major 7 chord, minor 1 chord. In its relative major, the scale that has the same notes, but we'd call it a major scale, E major, this would be a 4 chord, 4, the 1, a 5 chord, then the minor 6. Since we get the 5 and the minor 6, I'm inclined to say that this feels like it's an E major. So we have a minor modal shift, but again, when songs move between like the relative minor and the relative major, it's not really a true transposition. It just kind of shifts what's the focus point, but that definitely makes this song feel like it's really upbeat and happy in the chorus. Cool. So finally, we get those chords doubled on a pad. The pad, if you listen to it, has some fluttering to it. It's moving, so I grabbed a patch that did the same thing. With our bass, our pad sounds like this. Cool. And then finally, we hear this really subtle melody in the background of the hook. The melody is going A, B, C sharp, E, back to C sharp. So in essence, in the key of C sharp minor, this is going 6, 7, 1, 3, back to 1, 6, 7, 1, 3, back to 1, and then we get an extra 3 and E on top of it. We're talking about this in the key of E major. We're basically doing a, 4, 5, 6, 1, back to 6, 4, 5, 6, 1, back to 6. So whether we define the chorus of the song in E major or C sharp minor, doesn't really matter. We have all the same notes, but the more layers I'm going through, the more I want to call this chorus in the key of E major. One of the things that changes like my decision on what to call it, or anybody that's into analyzing songs, is basically like seeing like the chords that we have, what comes first, what comes last, the value of the harmonies. So a 5 chord has a great importance. So because we're using the B major here, that 5 chord in E, that kind of makes me feel like we're in E major on top of the melody. So all together, let's watch the melody while we hear it. So finally, I'll just kind of solo out individual layers. For the hook, we have the guitar, doubled fifths, chords on our mellotron, the sub, our lead, finally we add the drums in and we have this. Cool. So hopefully you found that helpful. If you found that helpful, you would help me out a ton by subscribing to the channel. Come out with these music theory breakdowns every Friday. If you have a suggestion of a song you'd like to see me cover, leave it in the comments. I love getting requests, and it makes me feel like I have a purpose for making a video, and I'm not just looking at charts or thinking of what would be a cool song. Once again, my name's Andrew. If you're curious about finding my music or any of my other stuff, like my music theory textbook, I'll link to all of that below. Have a wonderful day. Be kind to your fellow human being. And remember, making music is fun. So keep having fun, and you never know what's going to happen in the future. Cheers.